Good morning, all of you. Today we are going to live with one of the masterpieces of English literature. We are going to live with William Shakespeare. We are going to live with Hamlet. We are going to live with to be or not to be. William Shakespeare is so famous, is so well known all over the ages and for all learners of English. And so I am going to speak so briefly about him. Well known is the greatest writer in the English language all over the ages. Well known is the world's preeminent dramatist and playwright. Well known is Britain's national poet. Well known is the bard of Avon. Well known is the swan of Avon. William Shakespeare was and is still so famous to the extent that the Victorians worshipped him. I use the word worship not in a religious sense, but in an artistic one. He was and is still so famous to the extent that George Bernard Shaw got to coin the term bardolatry, referring to the extreme admiration Shakespeare used to get, especially from the Victorians. Ben Jonson used to speak about Shakespeare saying he was not of an age but for all time. He was the soul of the age, that is Shakespeare himself, the applause, delight, and wonder of the stage. If I want to speak about William Shakespeare, I will speak forever, but I think this is enough. What about the play we are going to deal with today? What about Hamlet? I am going to speak about Hamlet, the play itself, since the play carries the same name as its creator, that is Shakespeare. So I'm going to speak about the play itself first. After that, I'm going to speak about Hamlet, the character, the main hero of the play. Hamlet, the play, is one of the most frequently quoted works in the English language all over the time. It is a play of revenge. Revenge against father murder and revenge against mother incest. Again, I say the play is concerned primarily with revenge, and so we can describe it as a play of revenge. Revenge against what? Against father murder and father incest. Incest, for those who are not quite familiar with the religious connotations of the term, incest means an illegal relationship between man and woman. Let's return again to the play. The play got to be very famous, especially with its soliloquy by Hamlet, to be or not to be, that is the question. It is a play of feigned madness, especially when it comes to Hamlet pretending to be mad in order to discover something, in order to reach a conclusion that he wanted. Hamlet, upon returning, when hearing about the death of his dear father, the king, got to know that his father died as a result of the sting of a serpent. This is the story that was told in Denmark upon his return. A serpent stung the king. Hamlet suspected such a story from the very beginning. He had so many doubts about such a story. He didn't believe it. Why? Hamlet had some suspicions that there was a conspiracy made by his uncle, who has become the present king, and his mother, who is the king's wife now. He thought that there was some kind of a conspiracy in order to get rid of the late king, that is his father, and from his mother to get married to the new king. Hamlet's suspicions and doubts got affirmed by the appearance of the ghost of the dead king. The ghost appeared to Hamlet every now and then, asking him to take revenge against his uncle, and told him the real story. What was the real story? It told him that the serpent that stung his father is now wearing the crown, referring to Claudius, the present king. The ghost affirmed Hamlet's suspicions, but Hamlet hesitated in taking an action. He didn't act at once. He hesitated and procrastinated for a long time. And the witness is to be or not to be, that is the question. Why did Hamlet hesitate? Why did Hamlet procrastinate? This is the topic of our lecture today, the first half of it. So, we have spoken about Hamlet, the play. What about Hamlet as a man, as a character, as a hero? I said from the very beginning that William Shakespeare is well known all over the time. Well known is Shakespeare, okay. More known than Shakespeare is Hamlet. So Hamlet has come to be more famous and more known than his creator, that is Shakespeare himself. Hamlet comes to be more famous than Shakespeare, especially when it comes to the so many quotations people have from Hamlet. They attribute the words, for example, to be or not to be, to Hamlet, not to Shakespeare. And so he has become so famous as a philosophical character, an existentialist thinker, as a man who has got distanced from reality by fantasy and narcissism. Again, I say Hamlet is a philosophical character, is an existentialist thinker, is a man who has got distanced from reality via fantasy and narcissism. I'm going to deal with Hamlet in order to answer the main question of the lecture today, which is, does Hamlet have an Oedipus complex? In order to go to the question and tackle it, I am going to deal with the philosopher Hamlet. How did Hamlet speculate and philosophize about human nature and about the woman? And from such speculations, I am going to answer the question. Let us look at Hamlet philosophizing about the human nature and the woman. Let's start first with the human nature in Hamlet. If you look at the picture in front of you, you will find Hamlet. This is Prince Hamlet. Speaking to what? Speaking to a skull, a very old skull of a dead person. He has got such a skull from a grave that was being dug for Ophelia, his love, but he didn't know that she was dead. He got such a skull and started philosophizing, started speculating, started addressing the skull just as if it was a human being, hearing him and answering his questions. Hamlet, as an existentialist thinker, pondered so much about human nature, about human beings, about utility of life, about to be or not to be, about the purpose of living at all, about committing suicide. Let's listen to Hamlet. Or that the everlasting had not fixed his canon against self-slaughter. O God, God, how weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable seem to me all the uses of this world. This is life according to Hamlet. Hamlet has lost hopes in everything to the extent that he has described life or the world as being weary, stale, flat, and unprofitable. Let's continue. Hamlet. Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all. I must be cruel only to be kind. This is an oxymoron of Hamlet. Cruel and kind at the same time. How? He should be cruel against his uncle. He should take revenge against his uncle only to relieve the soul of his dear father and to be kind to his father. However, he procrastinated, and I'm going to tell you the reason after a while. Rosencrantz is asking Hamlet when seeing Hamlet dragging the dead body of Polonius, whom Hamlet killed by mistake. Rosencrantz, what have you done, my lord, with the dead body? Hamlet, compounded it with dust, whereto it is kin. This is the end of life. Man is no more than a heap of dust. And so Hamlet has rendered the net result of life. He has compounded the dead body of Polonius with dust. Why? Because it is its ultimate end to return again to dust. Again, Hamlet, the body is with the king, but the king is not with the body. The king is a thing. Rosencrantz, a thing, my lord, of nothing. This is the philosophy of Hamlet. He has equated, he has made an equation between the dead body of Polonius and the heap of dust. The king is a thing of nothing. And so we can reach the conclusion that life, that human nature, that the world at all is a thing of nothing. What about the woman in Hamlet? Of course, the woman had a great share in such a play and in the philosophy of Hamlet. And when I speak about the woman in Hamlet, I emphasize the two most important women in the play. That is his mother and his love, Ophelia. Hamlet has got disgusted with all women because of what his mother has done. What did his mother do? She so quickly, after making a conspiracy with his uncle in order to get rid of his father, she so quickly married his uncle and now considers him as her legal husband. However, Hamlet has a very different opinion. Let's listen to Hamlet speaking to Ophelia, and we are going to get Hamlet's philosophy about the woman. Is this a prologue or the posy of a ring? Ophelia, 'tis brief, my lord. Hamlet, yes, as woman's love. As woman's love. So he wants to say that woman's love, if she has love at all, is so brief and it cannot last for a long time for a certain person. And he has the evidence. His mother conspired with his uncle in order to get rid of his father and to marry his uncle. Hamlet, to himself this time, she married almost wicked speed to post with such dexterity to incestuous sheets. This is the rub. This is the main core of the problem. Dexterity to incestuous sheets. Hamlet doesn't consider it marriage at all. He considers it some kind of incest. His mother, who was still very young, still very beautiful, still very lusty, hurried to marry his uncle in order to enjoy the dexterity, in order to enjoy the incestuous sheets. Hamlet again, O God, a beast that wants discourse of reason would have mourned longer. He is speaking about his father. He says that if his father was a beast that wants a discourse, his mother should have mourned longer. However, she didn't mourn at all. She so quickly threw herself into the hands of his uncle, claiming that it was marriage, which Hamlet himself considered it as incest. Let's continue with Hamlet, and now to the main question of our symposium today, which is does Hamlet have an Oedipus complex? Does Hamlet have an Oedipus complex? From the very beginning, I'd like to answer this question affirmatively. I say yes. Yes, he has an Oedipus complex. How? And this is my own interpretation. I am quite satisfied with it. For the majority of us, the Oedipus complex is well known. For those who are not familiar with it, I'm going to shed light so briefly on it. It dates back to the Theban legend of King Oedipus, and by the way, it is pronounced Oedipus. It dates back to King Oedipus, the Theban king who killed his father by mistake and married his mother also by mistake and got many children. The Austrian psychoanalyst Sigmund Freud got to term such a word Oedipus complex, referring to a hidden desire, an instinct desire, a physical desire with which every male child is born towards his mother. Again, I say a physical desire, an inherent desire, an instinct desire with which every male child is born toward his mother. Such a desire gets aggravated every now and then whenever the male child sees something happening between his father and mother. However, the child has to hide his desire, has to inhibit his desire, has to repress his desire under many constraints and controls, the first of which is the father himself. He is so frightful, he is so terrified of his father because the child has a desire to get a share in his mother. The child has to share his father who is taking complete possession or grip of his mother. He wants to enjoy his mother just like his father. However, he cannot bring to the surface such a desire, and so it gets repressed and inhibited. Number one, under the control of the father. Number two, when the child grows up under religious norms, cultural traditions, customs of the society, and so the desire is being repressed and inhibited, but never appears and never disappears at the same time. Sometimes the desire gets some kind of outlet or attempting to escape. For example, during the absence of the father, and so, as Sigmund Freud assumes, the child so many times wishes to get rid of the father even by death. The child wants to get rid of the father in order to find the way so clear for him to bring into the surface his hidden desire. Let's speak about Hamlet. Hamlet, as any male child, has had such a hidden desire, such an instinct, such a physical desire towards his mother. Such a desire, such as in the case of any male child, was repressed, was inhibited under the so many constraints I mentioned earlier. The first of which was his father. In the case of Hamlet, his desire was so aggravated. Why? Because Hamlet's mother was still very young, was still very beautiful. And in the case of Hamlet, it was very aggravated because Hamlet's mother was very lusty. Upon the death of Hamlet's father and the appearance of the ghost asking Hamlet to take revenge, Hamlet procrastinated for a long time. Hamlet hesitated for a long time. He didn't like to take an action. He spoke too much and did little. He said, to be or not to be, that is the question. And if we want to translate to be or not to be, we can say that Hamlet means to take an action or not to take an action. And when it was very aggravated and he got disappointed and was full of frustration, we can say that it means to live or to die. I told you that Hamlet speculated for a while about committing suicide because he was in a loss. He wanted to obey his father and to take revenge, but he didn't take such an action immediately. Why? This is the core of the question. Does Hamlet have an Oedipus complex? Hamlet didn't want to become another Oedipus. How? Hamlet didn't like to kill his uncle Claudius because he saw that Claudius was just an image of himself. How? Hamlet, as a child and as a young man, had a repressed desire for his mother. Claudius also had such a desire for Hamlet's mother. However, Claudius did what Hamlet couldn't do. Claudius fulfilled his desire, but Hamlet couldn't. And so Hamlet saw that he himself is no better than the sinner whom he is to punish. A subsequent guilt prevented Hamlet from murdering Claudius, who has done what he unconsciously wanted to do. Confronted with his repressed desire, Hamlet realizes that he is as guilty as Claudius himself. And so, if Hamlet wanted to point a dagger to Claudius's chest, he should direct such a dagger to his own chest first, because both of them were sinners. However, Claudius fulfilled his sin, but Hamlet couldn't. Hamlet's disgust with the idea of killing Claudius, his fear of killing Claudius, his terror of killing Claudius got very apparent in the scene in which Hamlet intruded into his mother's closet while she was alone in bed. At that moment, Hamlet got very frightened because he realized that killing Claudius, who is the partner of this bed, would clear his path, would clear his way to such a bed so easily. And so the tragedy will happen. He will become another Oedipus. And so Hamlet's disgust of killing Claudius was due to his fear of committing what Claudius himself has committed with his mother. And so he got to say, to be or not to be, that is the question. To take an action or not to take an action, that is the question. To live or to die, that is the question. According to an Elizabethan Trinity, that is to say a religious dogma consisting of three integrated parts. Again, I say Elizabethan Trinity, that is to say a trinity, a religious one, prevalent in the Elizabethan age. A woman was looked upon as being either one of three. She was either a maid, a wife, or a widow, while the prostitute was outside such a stereotype. Again, I say, a woman was looked upon as being a maid, a wife, or a widow, while the prostitute was being an outcast of the society, outside such a stereotype. How did Hamlet look upon his mother according to such a trinity? Hamlet saw his mother as neither a maid, because he himself is her son. She was not a widow, because now she has someone who is living with her as a husband. And because her the third part is not also fulfilled, she is not a wife. Because Hamlet didn't consider his mother's relation with Claudius as being marriage. He considered it as being incest, an illegal relationship between man and woman. So he concluded that his mother was not a maid, she was not a widow, she was not a wife. What was she? He concluded that his mother was a whore. Okay? Such a kind of conclusion that Hamlet reached was due to his mother's failure to keep faithful to his father. She conspired with his uncle in order to get rid of the father and to enjoy the incestuous sheets as Hamlet himself described them. Hamlet's disgust with his mother, with what she has done, made him lose confidence in all women, whether honorable or not. Let's listen to Hamlet speaking about his mother's relationship with Claudius. He is addressing his mother. Let's listen to him. Let the bloat king tempt you again to bed. Pinch wanton on your cheeks, call you his mouse, and let him for a pair of richy kisses, or paddling in your neck with his damned fingers, make you to ravel all this matter out. I think Hamlet's discourse is quite evident because he is speaking with his mother in a very tough way, and I don't want to elucidate it more than this. Let's listen to the queen, that is Hamlet's mother. Hamlet, thou hast thy father much offended. Let's listen to Hamlet, the philosopher, how he answers his mother's riddles in more riddles. Mother, you have my father much offended. Queen, come, come, you answer with an idle tongue. Go, go, you question with a wicked tongue. Why now, Hamlet? What is the matter now? Have you forgot me? Let's listen to Hamlet, the philosopher. No, by the rood. He is swearing by the rood, the cross. Not so. You are the queen, your husband's brother's wife, and would it were not so, you are my mother. This is the most bluntly kind of addressing Hamlet used with his mother. Let's continue. Ha! Have you eyes? You cannot call it love, for at your age the heyday in the blood stain. It is humble. He is here accusing his mother. He is referring to her illegal relationship to the kind of incest in which she is immersed. He doesn't call her relationship with Claudius love because, as he considers it, at her age, the heyday in the blood stain, it is humble. The queen, O Hamlet, thou hast cleft my heart in twain. Let's listen to the philosopher. Oh, throw away the worser part of it, and leave the purer with the other half. This is Oedipus complex as for Hamlet and his mother. What about his relation with Ophelia? That is his love. Hamlet's disgust with his mother's behavior, with her incest, made him lose confidence in all women. He became disgusted with all types of illegal relationships. So he asks Ophelia to go to a nunnery. He feared that Ophelia, just like his mother, may be involved in any kind of incest or illegal relationship with any other man. And so he speaks with Ophelia. Get thee to a nunnery. Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? If thou wilt needs marry, marry a fool. Here I want to elucidate a very dangerous point that I have got all over my study of Hamlet. Now I have been reading Hamlet for over 20 years really, whether as a student or while teaching it to my students, over than 20 years. And all over my journey with Hamlet, which I read 3 times yearly, and every time I get something new of such a very rich play, I have got to notice that those who are quite familiar with Hamlet and Shakespeare, those who are specialized in English literature, and for sorry, even professors of English, deal with the word nunnery in its present sense. That is to say, it means a place, a religious one, where nuns go to live in order to sacrifice themselves, in order to devote themselves and their lives only to God. I say no. This is not the nunnery used in the Elizabethan sense. This is not the word nunnery used by Shakespeare in Hamlet. When Shakespeare used the word nunnery, it meant the opposite of what it means today. It used to mean a brothel. A brothel, that is to say, a place where whores went to live. And so when Hamlet asked Ophelia to go to a nunnery, he wanted her to go to a brothel. That is to say, he considered Ophelia to belong to the same class, just like his mother. She was no more than a whore, and so her appropriate place should be the nunnery, that is, the brothel. Now, this is the relationship between Hamlet and his mother, the relationship between Hamlet and Ophelia. The final question is, does Ophelia herself have an Electra complex? Again, the question, does Ophelia herself have an Electra complex? Electra complex, for those who are not familiar with the term, is the parallel complex but in the woman. So if we say that Oedipus complex denotes a physical desire in the male child towards his mother, Electra complex means a physical desire, a hidden one, in the female child towards her father. I say yes. Electra complex, Ophelia did have an Electra complex towards her father. All over her life, Ophelia was so strongly attached towards her father. She was strongly attached to her father, to the extent that she considered him to be her hoped for love. Again, I say she considered her father to be her hoped for love. So here we can distinguish between two kinds of love in Ophelia's life. A legal one, that is Hamlet the prince, whom she aspired, or she convinced herself that she aspired to get married, and an illegal one towards her father. All of a sudden, Hamlet killed Polonius, that is Ophelia's father, by mistake also. All of a sudden, Ophelia found her unfulfilled love for her father so abruptly terminated. All of a sudden, she found that her hoped for love was cut. And so she was driven into a state of oblivion, into a state of insanity, into a state of frenzy, into a state of madness, into a state of committing suicide by drowning herself into the river. This is due to losing her illegal lover, not Hamlet. And so I assume that Ophelia's insanity, Ophelia's suicide, Ophelia's drowning in the river was due to losing her hoped for love, for losing her illegal love, that is her father, not for losing the legal one, that is Hamlet. The legal love put an end to the illegal one, and so she ended her life committing suicide. Last, I am so happy to have delivered such a symposium in front of you today. I'd like first of all to pay great homage for His Excellency, our Dean of the Faculty, Professor Khalifa Al-Masoud, under whose auspices and encouragement I always go on with my activities in the faculty. I thank him so much for the efforts he is always exerting in order to put our faculty ahead. I am so happy, and I consider it a very happy occasion when I see my great guest, Professor Ashraf Abdel in front of me attending the symposium. And by the way, Dr. Ashraf is so punctual in attending such a symposium regularly. Thank you, Dr. Ashraf. I'd like to offer my greatest thanks to Dr. Khalid Al-Awad, who is always giving me momentum to go on with my activities. I'd like to thank all my colleagues from my dear departments who are present today, my colleagues from other departments, officials from the faculty. I'd like to pay a special thank to Mr. Yusuf Dakhil, who has shouldered the responsibility of preparing the symposium from the very beginning to the very end. Special thanks also are due to my dear students, my so many students who are attending the symposium today. Thank you all, and goodbye.